Coming in, you guys. We're back here with another Jimmy on Clubhouse. And this is the official Instagram page for my Clubhouse app rooms, the things that I moderate there. I try to bring them here to you guys here on Instagram. If you're brand new to the Clubhouse concept, it is a downloadable app. The only limitations right now, unfortunately, are you can only get on Clubhouse if you have some kind of an Apple device, so either an iPhone or an iPad, and then you must be invited by someone you know. So if you are deficient in either one of those, either you have an Android or you have not gotten an invitation, then you can't get on. So what I try to do here on the Instagram page is to give you guys a little sneak peek at what we do over there. I am literally loving it. And I love the format because it's pretty much like podcasting for me. And I think it's a better format than Jimmy Rants was. I liked Jimmy Rants, don't get me wrong, but I'm getting a lot more engagement doing this. I'll be doing it with you, was planning on doing it anyway, so you just gave me more incentive. So Norma, awesome. Norma, if you personally need a code, they just gave me 3 invites today. So if you need an invite, I'll need your phone number. So if you don't have an invitation and you want one, I will personally invite you to join under the invites that I got. So if you'll just text me through DM, I'll make sure you get one. CKS says, I tried to join, got an invite from someone, didn't want to be tied to them. Can you get more than one? So I get about 3 about once every 4 to 5 days. At least since I've been on, I've been able to get several. So if you will DM me CKS, I will offer the same extension that I did Norma. Oh, Norma, you don't have an iPhone. Okay, you didn't say that. You said you got an invite or you want to get on. All right, well, you got to get some kind of an iDevice. So either an iPad, which is what this is, or an iPhone. All right. Let me get this show on the road. We're going to talk about 7-day fast. I'm going to do one next week, you guys. A lot of you have been asking me, when am I going to lead a corporate fast? Well, here it is. I have not been in a good place with my stress over the past year and a half, so it hasn't been good for me, and it's still not resolved, but I want to give it a go. I think the time is right, and I want to do it. So we're going to talk about that here today. So let's bring in the Clubhouse. What is up, you guys? Come on into the Clubhouse. We got a great topic in store for you guys here today. Just going to invite a few people into the room that I know are my buds. And if they're interested at all in the subject of fasting, then this will be an opportunity for them to pop in and learn all about this upcoming fast I'm going to be doing next week. If you just got here, you guys, go ahead and invite some people into the room. This is a big topic. A lot of people ask me about all the time. Fasting is one of those topics that if you've never done it before, it can seem intimidating. And I definitely want to take the intimidation factor out of the concept of fasting. So if you're one of those people who gets intimidated by fasting, you are in the right place. Definitely stick around. We're going to have a great conversation here today. And I'm going to tell you about this fast that I'll be leading all of next week that I would love to personally invite you to be a part of. So thank you for being here. Come on in, guys. Going to go ahead and get Judy to come in and unlock it, which she has. Thank you, Judy. All right. What's up, Lindsay and Rox and Jasmine, Danielle, and thank you all for being here. So I wrote a book right about 5 years ago with this gentleman named Dr. Jason Funk, who I noticed just yesterday joined Clubhouse. I've already sent out an invitation for Jason to join me for one of my interviews. And so if I could get him to contact me back, he's a busy man. So, and I could get him on here, I will definitely have him come on and wax eloquently about fasting. But we wrote a book together called The Complete Guide to Fasting. And in there, we wanted to try to just help people understand the various kinds of fasting that you can do. So there's intermittent fasting, which a lot of people that eat keto, you naturally fall into kind of an intermittent fasting schedule. And then you've got people who like to push it a little bit longer. So there's this concept known as OMAD. So that's one meal a day, where you basically eat one big meal and then you fast for 23 and a half hours. There's also basically 36 hour to 42 hour. We kind of call that a slightly extended fast. And then there's extended fasting. And I want to focus on that one in what I'm doing today, because next week, March the 1st through the 7th, I want to lead a public fast of 7 days. And I'll tell you what, I've done this before on some other platforms on Instagram, and it's always been wonderful because people come into it thinking, oh my God, 7 days, what are you talking about, Jimmy? There's no way I could do that. The longest I've fasted is like an intermittent fast of 18 hours. So if that's you and you're intimidated, can I just set your mind at ease and let you know that that's most people? In fact, I would dare say most people have never gone more than 24 hours without eating. The vast majority of people. And it's a far smaller amount of people that pushed it to 48 hours. And an incredibly infinitesimally small number of people that decided to go a whole week. Just for the record, I've done 1 week fasts so many times. They're pretty easy for me. Now, there's difficulties, so don't think it's totally easy. There is difficulties in doing it, but it's a lot easier now because I've done it a lot. I have done 3 21-day fasts. Not really a fan of doing those super long ones anymore. It was fun just to see how the body would respond. But I think you get most of the benefits that you would get from fasting simply from pushing it to at least 3 days and probably at most around 7 days. I think you start getting the law of diminishing returns when it comes to beyond 7 days. Now, if you feel good at 7 days and you want to keep it going, I don't think there's anything harmful from it, but it is kind of that cutoff threshold. Plus, you get to fast again pretty quick, whereas if you do 21 days, you have to wait a few months before your body can recover. But yeah, so next week, March 1st through 7th, I will come on daily at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So right at this time, every single day, Monday through Sunday next week, I'm going to come on live and we're going to talk about day 1, day 3, day 5, and just each day, I'll bring you guys up and you'll have questions about the fast, and I'll be happy to answer. I'll also have some teaching moments of maybe anything that you will run into on those particular days, and then jibber jabber with you about it. So anybody interested in that? Does that sound interesting? Definitely raise your hand if you think that's something you would like to try to do. I am somebody that has done a lot of fasts, and so I can pretty much answer any and all questions about fasting that you might have. But the reason I wanted to go on live today was not just tell you guys about this, but to also tell you some of the things you might want to get in stock. And so Kitty Cat over on Instagram says she would like to do this. So yes, please. So here's what you need. And a lot of times people try to make fasting so hard. A lot of times people say, well, I need bone broth, or I need coffee with enough cream in it so it tastes good. I need this, I need sweeteners, I need this, I need that. And can I just tell you from my many years of experience doing this, everything you add to a fast beyond water and salt only exacerbates the misery of it. Hear me out, because you think, okay, I'll just have a little something, Jimmy. I'll have like a diet soda. I'll have just, enough cream in the coffee and adding calories, Why not water and salt? And trust me, I have gone down that path of thinking I needed something, worrying about muscle loss, worrying about hunger. Water and salt is all you need, says Norma over on Instagram. And you're right, Norma. And what you'll find, especially if you get a good quality salt, and we'll talk about that here in a second, you will find such satiation from calming all the everything in your body. And so, yes, I'm a proponent of, if you're going to fast, you need to purely fast. And that means water, and that means salt. So salt can be tricky because a lot of people think that cute little girl with the umbrella on the blue can, that's salt. No, that's man-made salt-like property. What you need is either some kind of a mineralized salt, like pink Himalayan sea salt's the one that everybody likes. I personally like Redmond's real salt, and it's out of a mine in Utah is where that's from. And it's got great minerals, so it tastes good. And it is literally the elixir that keeps you on plan when you're in the midst of an extended fast. And so anytime you get hunger pangs, that's when you put some salt underneath your tongue. When you feel a little bit weak, that's when you put the salt underneath the tongue. It literally will jolt you back when you feel like you can't go. And when you think you have hunger, again, salt underneath the tongue. And then the other thing is the water. People, there is this concept called dry fasting. So people think, well, you don't really need a lot of water. Oh, yeah, you do. I'm not a fan of dry fasting. I think it's very dangerous because your body, think about it. Fasting is kind of fast forwarding all of the benefits that you would get from ketosis. It's speeding it up. And so if you're going to get sped up keto, what does that mean? It means you're going to be dumping glycogen stores. And especially as you get into day 2 of your fast, your body's going to start rebelling against you if you're not feeding it proper hydration through water. And so that's the plan. I want to see who wants to do a 7-day fast with me. Like I said, I'll do daily updates at 1:30 p.m. Anybody want to hop up to the stage and talk to me? Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you up here. Instagram, same for you. I can't bring you on the stage, but I can certainly talk to you if you want to write any comments. But people have been begging me to do this. Will you please do a guided fast? And like I said, I've done many of these. It intimidates so many people. So if you are intimidated by fasting, I would love to talk to you and see what your concerns are. We do have somebody coming up to the stage. Lindsay, what you got?
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey.
Great to be here with you and everyone in the audience. Hey, well, the one thing I wanted to bring up, or at least open a discussion, is when's the right time for a woman to do an extended fast if she wanted to?
Right.
Or is there? She do it anytime?
Oh.
I know the answer. You know the answer. But those that are listening may not know the answer.
Thank you. Yes. I see these kind of little nuances are the kinds of things that I rely on people like you to trigger. Thank you for that, Lindsay. So yes, she is right. And most of you are, in fact, all of you, I see a few more guys came in. Most of you here are ladies. And so for you ladies, if you're about to be in your cycle of menstruation, yeah, don't fast. Because I think you're just setting yourself up for a stressor that your body doesn't need at that time. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay. Is that what you believe? Lindsay?
Sorry, I had to reach for the unmute. Yes, absolutely. So the week for a woman who's cycling, the week before her cycle, she really supports progesterone, and also if she's on a low carb diet, that's when she needs to eat higher carbs as well to support progesterone, like you said. And so you don't want to tank your hormones. The first 2 weeks of a woman's cycle, from the time she bleeds to the time of ovulation or right before, so the first 10 days or so is the best time if she wants to do a block fast that you described and not wreck her hormones. And that goes for postmenopausal, will have an easier time fasting whenever she wants, but she does need to incorporate some feasting and some higher carb days in there if she is a low carb woman and still fasting as well. So it's all in the right timing of it.
Yes, and you ladies, you know your Minzy, you know when it's appropriate to do this and when it's not. I just randomly chose next week just because it's been a little while since I've done an extended fast, and I've been inundated by my Instagram followers because I used to do this show there called Jimmy Rants, and so I would lead these extended fasts, and we always got huge response from it. So this will be my first one with Clubhouse. So anybody else have questions or concerns about doing an extended fast? Have you done an extended fast before? If not, what are your concerns about it? Go ahead and raise your hand down at the bottom. Hit the little hand button. We'll pull you right up here. Lindsay, I'm going to keep you up here in case somebody asks a question that you can chime in. But you're in Keto for the Soul. Hit that little green house at the top you can definitely join in on the conversation anytime. But I would love to answer any questions or concerns you have about doing a 7-day fast. And like I said, I've done many of these over the years since I wrote that book with Jason. I had never done more than even like a 24-hour fast, Lindsay, before I did that book. And so for basically research purposes, I wanted to know what it felt like. So I did these longer fasts. Even Dr. Fung was like, wow, more power to you doing 21 days on your own. But I made mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes.
Yeah, the longest I've actually done is 5 days. And I would say, what would you say is the hardest time or the hardest hump to get over?
Oh.
I'm going to go ahead, you go first.
Day 2. Day 2 sucks because think about it. Day 1 is just another day in keto paradise because most of us can easily kind of OMAD and go that 24 hours, especially if you're well fat adapted. Oh, let me give that caveat too. That just triggered. I'm glad you're up here, Lindsay. Thank you for coming up. If you're not yet keto adapted, fat adapted, and have all of the benefits of a well-formulated ketogenic diet nourishing you well, do not start an extended fast. Please get well keto adapted first, then try an extended fast, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for failure. And let me add one more caveat. Don't go carb binge on Sunday thinking, okay, I'm about to fast for a week, so let me get in all the junk food I can because I'm going to lose the weight anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's not about the weight, by the way. It's about that hormone stability. And so if you make your insulin go wackadoodle the day before you start an extended fast, you must like pain because that's what's going to be awaiting you on the other side of that. Yeah, day 2, Lindsay, traditionally has always been the most challenging. I have tried to mitigate that day 2 suckiness, so to speak, with exogenous ketones, and that does help for some people. For me now, though, I just salt up. I just make sure I'm way salted up. I probably eat more salt on day 2 of an extended fast than any other day. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I would say that hour around 30, 36.
Yes.
I would say that's the time frame. And so having experienced that, for those that haven't experienced, you go in, you're like, oh my gosh, my body is crying mutiny on me. What do I do? Oh, I got to break this fast. And just understanding the mental game that your body is so used to having fuel at certain times. And when it has to start going into those stores, it's built for survival. And so we're going to have those hunger cues. And like you said, when those come, we lean into the electrolytes, the salt. That really is helpful. I also have used a product called Fast Tonic, which is a hydrogen water.
Yes.
And that takes off the reactive oxygen species, like the edge off of some of that stress.
Yeah, I love that. And I also use another product called from Keto Chow, the company Keto Chow, called Fasting Drops, and it's concentrated sodium and magnesium. And so I'll throw a few drops of that into the water that I'm drinking because you're drinking a crap load of water. So you might as well put something in there to make it a little bit mineralized so you can get those electrolytes. Electrolytes is everything, you guys, when you're fasting. It is when you're keto as well, but especially so when you're fasting. So if you've never done a long fast before, this might seem intimidating, and I definitely want to hear your experience. So definitely raise your hand if you want to be a part of this discussion. It looks like Dax wants to ask a question or make a comment. What you got for us, Dax? Come on up to the stage. What you got, man?
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, bud.
Just joined the room. Appreciate you having me up here with
yeah, man.
You and Lindsay and Judith. Great discussion. Love fasting. Longest all-water fast I've been on is 15 days.
Woo!
I'm getting ready to start a 7-day fast Monday, actually. So good timing on the room for me here. I noticed you were talking about some of the ways to mitigate some of the effects of a fast.
Yeah.
I actually use Himalayan salt. It seems
Yes.
to be more mineral dense. And of course the electrolytes, that is critical. That is actually that's changed the way I've been able to get into a fast without many of the side effects, the supposed extreme hunger. For me, it's always starts to taper off by about the middle to the end of day 3. And but fasting is one of the most incredible cleansing. It's for me, it's almost a spiritual event.
Well, well, you think about it, especially by like day 3, 4, blood sugar totally plummets, like it goes way down. And that freaks some people out because you'll see a blood sugar by day 3, 4, maybe in the 70s, 60s, and for some people 50s. And so they're like, oh my God, I'm hypoglycemic. I'm like, how do you feel? Oh, I feel fine, but that number alone is hypoglycemia. I'm like, no, listen to your body and look at what's happening biologically within you. At the same time that blood sugar is falling, that's the amount of glucose that's in your blood. What else is happening? You're seeing a huge jump in beta hydroxybutyrate. So that's the blood ketone. So guys, if you're testing just blood sugar and you're not looking at ketones, don't let the blood sugar freak you out, because what you'll see is a commensurate rise in your blood ketones as that blood sugar goes down. Lindsay, is that what you see in your clientele?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important. You brought up a good point of testing. If you are going to do a longer fast, you have to be testing your blood glucose and your ketones, because there are ranges where you will want to break your fast because you don't want to get to a point where something adverse, like you passed out. The ranges that I've heard is if your blood sugar drops below 40,
yes,
you need to go ahead and break that fast. Or if your ketones, nothing above an 8, that would be time to break your fast. What are your thoughts?
The lowest I've ever seen on my blood sugar during a fast was 49. And then the highest I've ever seen, and this is deep in a fast, like day 15, 16. The highest blood ketones I've ever seen is about like a 7.1. So it got close to that 8. But like, it's not dangerous unless you're feeling bad. And this is another thing. If you're in the midst of a fast and you're adequately hydrating, you're adequately salting up, as Dax said, getting a good quality, rich, mineral-rich kind of salt, and it's still, you still feel bad. The difference between this and starving yourself, because people say, well, you're just starving yourself. No, you have total control in a fast. Starvation is you don't have access to food and yet you're hungry. Fasting is you have access to food, but you're choosing not to eat it. But if at any point it becomes too much, you could break the fast. And there's no shame in that. When I've led these before, people, the most they've gone is like 18 hours, and then they accomplish 48 hours, and they're like, oh no, I failed. I'm like, whoa. Like, you've gone 18 before, and now your longest is 48? That's like triple your best one you've ever done. So don't beat yourself up if we start a 7-day fast on Monday, which we will, and you don't make it the full 7 days. It's cool. Life happens. You're gonna surprise yourself. Isn't that right, Dax?
Absolutely. The first time you ever try to fast, I'm not sure what all you've said in this room prior to me being here, and I apologize if I repeat some of the content, but I first started fasting back probably 40 years ago, and I started with a 1-day fast. I did that each Monday for the first month. Then I progressed to a 3-day fast, and then a 5-day fast, and then a 7-day fast. But I think it's really important how you prepare for a fast.
Yes.
It's really difficult to go from a modern processed food diet to fasting, one day to the next. I always prepare for a fast by going on I try to achieve ketosis before I actually start the fast. That way my sugar cravings, my carbohydrate cravings, all of the normal cravings that you would have, by eliminating those foods, they're already gone. So you can do a lot to mitigate the initial factors and feelings that you have in fasting. I also try to start incorporating a diligent meditation regimen each day, because that will calm the body, balance the hormones, and give you a better sense of control over the situation, even though it's new to you.
Oh, guys, let me tell you what Dax just said is so critical, because you might think, okay, I'm not eating food. I'm just going to get hungry spontaneously. No, you actually won't, other than day 2 is kind of sucky. Day 2, by the way, Dax, is it rough on you, day 2?
Day 1 is a piece of cake. Day 2, I start to get the annoying feeling that my body's craving something. It's actually not craving anything.
Right.
By day 3, if you're just starting fasting, by day 3, the first time, you're going to feel like you really need to break the fast. You're starving to death for a while, but that goes away. It's kind of on cruise control by about day 4, certainly by day 5.
And if you go to day 3 and you make it all the way through day 3 and you survived, you'll go to 7. It's pretty inevitable. Like you said, it kind of just goes away. And you mentioned earlier about the meditation. Can I just underscore that for all you guys? If you've never fasted before and you don't realize the role that stress plays in your blood sugar and your hormones going crazy, like you can really sabotage your efforts with an extended fast through stress. So if you know you've got something stressful going on during this 1 week, do not either do that activity or fast. You need to choose, and you need to kind of try to find a time in your life when it's not quite so hectic. And you're right. Like I have a hot tub, I've got an infrared sauna, I've got little things that will help relax me, a massage chair, and things that I know that if I'm in that part of the fast where it's really rough and I'm potentially feeling some stress, I'm going to go do those things to try to bring that stress back down, because it's a powerful modality on negatively, Lindsay, on your health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important that you brought into play, is the fact that fasting is another stressor, and it is a good stressor. It can be a good stressor, but the body perceives all things as a stressor, whether that be chemical, emotional, physical. And so if we're adding fasting in there, and we have, depending on what's going on in our lives, our environment, or otherwise, mentally, emotionally, that could be too much on the body, and it could just be an additional stressor, and it could be maladaptive instead of beneficial as we would like, or it makes it just more difficult to push through that fast.
Yes. So Norma over on Instagram says, can you explain what happens when you fast? Because a lot of you might be like, 7 days, Jimmy, that's kind of extreme. What are we doing 7 days? But she wants to know what happens. Are cancer cells starved? Do you reset the gut microbiome? People might have heard about autophagy. So yes to a lot of those things. Cleaning up of the cells is something we don't do culturally in this feast age we live in. And so when you allow your body to relax by not feeding it food, your pancreas gets a break, and you get cleaning up of these dead cells. That's kind of the idea behind autophagy. And there's no other way to get rid of these excess proteins that just float around in the body. And so many kind of benefits. Dax, what kind of benefits have you seen doing some of these longer fasts?
Particularly, you speak about stress, and in starting a fast, if you're in a stressful environment, mentally, emotionally, it's a bit difficult to start a fast if you've got a lot going on in your life.
Yes.
It's probably not an ideal time to start a fast. Preferably, when things have calmed down in your life, because there is a lot of mental and emotional stress involved with fasting, and you have no idea what's going to come up. It's why fasting is kind of a solitary pursuit for many people, because they don't really trust themselves, maybe in mixed company with some of the side effects that come from fasting. But it's all good. Some of that comes from when your body's detoxifying, if your lymph glands are releasing toxins back into the bloodstream to be removed during a fast, well, that often some of that passes through your brain, and that can cause some havoc in your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions. So you kind of have to be aware going into it that you're going to have some different feelings, opinions, thoughts about things. I might reference a couple of books that I've used for many years in regard to fasting. One is by Paul C. Bragg, 2 G's on the end of that, and it's called The Miracle of Fasting. I learned a great deal from that. I've implemented many of those techniques. Another one was by Professor Arnold Arett, and it's called Rational Fasting. It's a rather old book, and it's a bit of antiquated language, but still very relevant in terms of the physiology of fasting. I might mention, too, just that, and again, I apologize if I'm repeating what you've already said. When it comes to the the type of water that you're going to use when you're fasting. It's very important that you, at the very least, use some type of a purified water, at least maybe a desktop purifier, countertop. A good one, I think, is Pure, P-U-R. They have a one that removes most of the copper, mercury, cadmium, and industrial pollutants, and that's a very good filter. Ideally, I believe reverse osmosis is probably the best because it doesn't remove most of the minerals. Some people prefer distilled water, but that tends to leach minerals out of the body.
Yeah.
If you're going to use distilled water, it's imperative that you have a good electrolyte supplement that you're going to balance that with. So, sorry if I'm running on a rant here.
No, it's all good information. By the way, Brad Pilon's book, Eat, Stop, Eat, is another great resource as well. And on the water thing, by the way, it was Dr. Thomas Seyfried out of Boston College. I interviewed him on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show 12 years ago. And I was just talking about his work, about ketogenic diets with cancer. And he threw in this kind of throwaway, Lindsay, at the end that just blew me away. I was like dumbfounded for several seconds there going, He said that if you want to prevent cancer, go on a 1 week to 10 day fast once a year. And I assume it's because of some of the autophagy benefits that come from fasting for an extended amount of time. Have you seen any other literature on what the mechanism would be as to why fasting at least 7 days would be beneficial for cancer?
Right. It is getting into what we call maximum autophagy. And so you can get into autophagy even with a daily intermittent fast. So 17 hours or so is when we really start to make that switch. We switch on autophagy, where our body goes and seeks out those senescent cells, and apoptosis for those that are non-repairable, and breaks down and utilizes those proteins. And at 24 hours, we see how our gut starts to reset. But as we extend into that fast, our ketones rise, as you mentioned, our glucose comes down, and Thomas Seyfried created the glucose ketone index. And especially apparent for those who have serious chronic illness or the C word, cancer, is that when you get into that maximum autophagy, it allows for maximum healing at the cellular level.
Yes. By the way, that glucose ketone index, you might hear some people use the lingo. I hate it when they use the lingo, Lindsay, and Dax, as if everybody knows what GKI is. So they might say GKI. So that's what they're referring to, glucose ketone index. And it's basically this ratio between the glucose and the ketones. What's the healthy range or the range that they're targeting, Lindsay?
For cancer specifically,
yes.
We have different ranges. You want to have a 1.
So, yeah.
Really low.
So what that means is a 4.0 millimole. You have to do the translation into milligrams per deciliter, and a 4.0 millimole for blood ketones, the beta hydroxybutyrate. That would be that 1-to-1, for example. That would be one. Do you do GKI, Dax?
No, I'm really just kind of a
intuitive,
a traditional practitioner. I just go by what I feel.
Yeah.
How I feel. I'm not. I just might mention, so I don't forget here, on Amazon Prime you can pull up a documentary called Fasting.
Yes.
It actually has a variety of fasting modalities. It includes some anecdotal evidence, regarding the efficacy or benefits of fasting, but it's actually pretty good. It's there's some things that might throw you for a loop, but it does discuss water fasting in addition to some other types of fasting. But it would for anybody in the audience that needs kind of just a little intro primer to fasting. It's probably got some good information on it if you want to have a look at that.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to be testing my blood glucose with a CGI, a continuous glucose monitor. I'm going to wear the Freestyle Libre. That is something you would need to get from a medical professional, so you can't, unfortunately, buy it over the counter. It's so weird. You can buy a glucometer over the counter, Lindsay, but you can't get a CGI. It's crazy. A CGM, excuse me. It's crazy that they're not available just at will.
that are providing that prescription in their service
Yes.
for a 2-week. I think NutriSense.
NutriSense.
And there's another one that's coming out. Is it Vari? VARI?
I haven't heard that one.
That one's new and has a lot of different features because it integrates into other apps and gives you a lot more feedback, more so than just the glucose.
Yes. So yeah, this one that I have, if you can get a prescription from a doctor in your area, they'll give you the sensor is basically what you get, and you pop it in your arm. That thing's about, $50-$60. And then you have an app on your phone that you can just like wave over the sensor, and it will give you your blood sugar reading on a whim. So while we're doing the fast next week, I will give a daily kind of check-in on the air of what my blood sugar is doing at that very time. And I also have the BioSense breath ketone device that's a 10-to-1 ratio of the acetone in the breath to beta hydroxybutyrate. So if it blows a 10, it's 1.0 equivalent. So I will be blowing into that to get my ketones as well. So guys, I want to invite you up if you want to ask a question about an extended fast. All of us up here on the stage. Lindsay, what's the longest you fasted?
I've only done 5 days. I haven't extended
Only.
7.
Listen at you. Only 5 days. 5 days is badass. Don't do that. That's awesome. And Dax has done 15. I've done 21. So we're all extended fasting veterans up here. So click on that hand down there. I know you have questions. Don't make me grab you up from the audience. So go ahead and hit the hand. Come on up. That you are in Keto for the Soul. Come check us out. Click on that green house at the top. You can definitely join in on the conversation all day long. We have wonderful rooms all day long. I like to interview people. That's kind of my forte, and I like to do these kinds of subjects like we're doing here today. And if you missed the beginning, I am doing a 7-day fast guided next week, Monday through Sunday. And I encourage you, just give it a try. Norma says my longest one is 21 as well over on Instagram. If you miss any part of any of the rooms that I moderate, I record them and we put them up over on Jimmy on Clubhouse over on Instagram. But Jennifer, you're up. What you got?
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me up.
Sure.
So I've always been intimidated by fasting, I have to admit. I've done 24-hour fast is kind of the longest fast I've done, just from dinner to dinner.
Yeah, what's the concern?
I don't know. I guess I just get hungry and I
are you sure? Are you sure it's hunger? Because, and I'm sure Lindsay and Dax will chime in on this. For me, I understand that as a roadblock. I understand that people think they're going to get hungry. And I think what happens is people think they're going to get hungry. And so therefore the thinking about it stresses their body to the point that it makes them hungry. And so doing it in such a way where you're confident, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to make it 7 days. My name's Jennifer. I'm going to make it 7 days. Ain't nothing going to stop me. Boom. And you'll do it like that. We intimidate ourselves so much on so many things, and fasting is one of those things.
Yeah.
Jimmy, can I?
Yeah, go Dax.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, no problem. I was just going to ask one little quick question too, and that is it okay to have bra on a fast?
So you missed the very beginning. I have become convinced. I would love to hear what the other panelists think, but I have become convinced that anything you add to a fast beyond water and salt is going to be a saboteur. Dax, you had something you wanted to say?
Actually, yeah, I'll address that first. But as far as sabotaging your fast, anything that induces a nutritional reaction in your body, in other words, a digestive cycle, is going to inhibit or actually preclude you from deriving many of the benefits from fasting that come from fasting. I've always been a hardcore water-only advocate, along with electrolytes, generally in the form of like pink Himalayan salt. But as far as your first concern, the 24 hours, I remember when I first started fasting, I enjoyed tremendous ridicule from my family, friends. Everyone thought I was nuts and didn't hesitate to tell me so. But you have to understand your why. when you are preparing to fast, you need to understand, why am I doing this? Am I doing it for cleansing? Am I doing it for spiritual purification? Understand and have a good conversation with yourself about why you're doing this. And once you commit to it, you really you owe it to yourself to try it. I mean, within common sense limitations. If you've only done 24 hours, maybe try 2 days. It's a good idea if you're working full time to maybe start a 2-day fast on a Friday afternoon when you're done working or going to be done working. You're not going to have any severe effects the first few hours. But that way you're at home, you're in an environment that you can control, so you're not going to be subjected as much to, questions, why aren't you eating? We're all going to lunch. The social ramifications, I guess, is what I'm saying, or why a lot of people hesitate to try fasting, just because it's not a conventional practice.
Lindsay, any comments?
Yeah, I was sending you a DM. Sorry.
I got you, girl. I got it. I made Caitlin a moderator.
Awesome. Well, with fasting, I would say the mental and emotional piece was the most surprising. If there's anything that we have that's down there kind of unresolved, oftentimes those emotions will come up during fasting. And it's also a spiritual journey into ourselves, that as we let go of our addiction to food and we really get in touch with our being and ourself, there's a lot of amazing personal work in addition to the physical benefits. And when we come out through that fasting, first of all, even just pushing through at times when we want to eat more than anything, and hunger comes in waves.
Yes.
Understanding that, when I get hungry, I'm like, okay, it'll pass. Give it an hour or two sometimes, and I know it will pass. And the mental strength, and you just feel so strong, both physically and mentally, especially at the end. Because was it Steve Jobs that said, when it's in the looking back, you never see the progress while you're going through something? He said you connect the dots afterwards. And so when you're done with the fast, the dots really connect.
Yeah, people think they get progressively hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And it feels that way, Jennifer, with what you've described, that you get to that 24 hour and I can't make it any longer than 24 hours. It's because that's literally the hardest part with what Lindsay was just saying. You're building that fasting muscle. Think of it like a muscle. You're flexing that muscle. You're trying to build up the strength of your fasting, which is why once you do it and you overcome that 24-hour mark and you make it to 48 hours, like Dax was saying, then, okay, now you've pushed it and you've got a new PR. We have PR when you talk about exercising. You make a new personal record in your fasting muscle, and then the next time you can go for another PR. And it's like, we like to try to absolutism things, and that's what we do with fasting. I say your goal, Jennifer, if the longest you've ever done is 24 hours and you're intimidated by anything more than that, is anything above it. And if you make it to 25 hours, by golly, you made it to 25. Next time, go for longer.
All right, great. Well, I think this sounds really cool. I want to give it a shot with you next week, Jimmy. And I have one other question. What about exercise during fasting? Should that be adjusted, continued, no change?
I literally look at it like like you're going through some therapy. This is the way I view it, and I definitely want to hear. And by the way, let me introduce the other moderator that came up, Dr. Caitlin. Hello, Caitlin. Thanks for being here.
Oh, hello. Thanks for having me. You guys have one of my favorite topics going on. I'm super excited to dive into this.
Yes, and so you have a lot of experience with. What's the longest fast you've done, Caitlin?
I do 7-day fast 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay, so you have lots of experience in exactly what we'll be doing next week. So yeah, this is one of those things that if the intimidation factor is there and you feel like I'm just going to be hungrier and hungrier, and Jennifer, if you only make it, I say only, you only make it 2 days, please watch the whole week, because I want you to see other people that are still going deep in the fast. And that's going to encourage you that, wow, these people are not only alive, they seem to be happy. They seem to be thriving. That's the hope anyway. If you're miserable next week, please don't come up to the stage. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's there's so many kind of negative stigmas, Caitlin, about fasting that people think it's just going to be this miserable thing. And it's not that at all beyond the first few days.
Yeah, no, it's honestly a mindset thing that usually gets people, especially after they've done a few fasts. Now, in the beginning, when you're switching from being a sugar burner, which is majority of the world today, unfortunately, into forcing your body to start to utilize fat stores and make ketone production, there is that transition where your body is telling you you're hungry. You're really not hungry because you have this other energy source. It's just your body's ability to tap into it. And then the other thing that I hear and see a lot with my clients, because I've been teaching fasting for, 5-6 years now, is that it's a habit. So we get into habits of when we eat. You know, I go to the office, I get a cup of coffee. At 10:30, I get a coffee and a snack, and then I have lunch, and then I have an afternoon snack, and then I have this, and then I get home and make dinner, and then after dinner, when I put the kids to bed, I have, a glass of wine, and it's all habits. And so when we're trying to break a habit, it can be difficult at first, but the more that you practice it and the more that you do it, just like you said, Jimmy, fasting is a muscle, and you have to exercise it in order to get better, in order to get stronger.
Yes.
And so tapping in and asking yourself, am I hungry, or is this just a habit? More times than not, just like Lindsay said, it's a habit. And there's tips and tricks that you can do to push past it and not give into it. Now, there are times, though, where you are truly hungry, and we can talk about that later. But I love fasting. It is such an amazing healing tool for every single person on this planet if utilized.
Yes. That's the thing. We live in a feast society, and the idea of fasting seems foreign. But if you think about it from an ancestral standpoint, we were made to fast. And especially those of you who have like lipoprotein little a, I know I'm getting a little bit complex, but stick with me for a second. LP little a people that tend to have higher levels of that. That's one of the cardiovascular markers, advanced panel. I remember when I was doing cholesterol clarity, Dr. William Davis, who's a cardiologist, made the note, they're the ones that'll fast and outlive the whole tribe. So there are kind of genetic factors involved there as well that can make you thrive in a seemingly predisposition for disease. You actually end up living longer than everybody else.
Jimmy, can I?
Yeah, go.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
I was going to address the question about exercise.
Please.
Exercise beyond the first few days when you still have basically energy reserves before you achieve ketosis, that's fine. But usually by day 3, you might want to limit your exercise to walking and only walk until you maybe feel slightly tired. I found that what is really beneficial for me and not too taxing is to do a lot of stretching.
Yes.
I'll do 20-30 minutes of stretching a day, and it seems to really help keep me on task and keep me performing my daily routines that I need to without overtaxing my body.
Yeah, thank you, Dax. That's where I was going. Treat the exercise, Jennifer, as if you had an injury and you're recovering from the injury. And think about what you're doing the fasting for. You may have some damage going on metabolically that you're trying to heal up. Maybe you're trying to become a little more insulin sensitive and you got insulin resistance. So look at this time as an injury. If you had a broken leg, would you go to the gym and do leg curls? Of course not. And so think about it in that way, that you're not wanting to add an additional stressor on top of a stressor where you're trying to produce healing. It might be counterproductive to your goal.
Okay, that sounds great. I think I will just continue with walking the dog, and
yeah.
And I'm really interested in the autophagy benefits of fasting.
Yes.
For doing the extended fast, but I think I have a mental issue because as a kid, I had trouble with hypoglycemia.
Yes.
And I had difficulty balancing my blood sugar as a child. So I just sort of have this mental thought in my mind of like, oh, if I don't eat, I'm gonna get the shakes. But Dax, what you were saying about going into it already in ketosis, I think I'm in a much better position now where I do eat a low carb, almost ketogenic diet, and I've been transitioning more to ketogenic this past week, and I look forward to giving this a shot with you next week.
Thank you. And by the way, the shakes you used to get, that could be an electrolyte balance. It could be dehydration. So now that you're properly educated, you're well keto adapted, you will adequately hydrate, you'll adequately add in the micronutrients that you need in the form of electrolytes. You should be able to rock this. I really look forward to watching you next week, Jennifer. And in fact, I'm going to set up our interview that you and I do about your film. I'm going to set it up on like day 4 because I want to hear Jennifer with a ketone brain induced by fasting in a deep state of ketosis. That'll be awesome.
Oh, that sounds great. And maybe could you guys provide just a little specific advice, like how much Himalayan salt in water, and you do that just once a day or?
Oh no. Oh, it's as needed, and I say as liberally as you want. Like anytime I get any inkling of feeling bad, a feeling of hunger, anything that I feel like I need it. The fun part is you can mix it in a little bit of like warm water and sip on it, and it'll feel like you're drinking soup. And so that's a little hack that I do when I fast. If I get that point where it's just overwhelmingly, I think it was Caitlin that said you're going to have 1 or 2 hours there, or you're just going to have to ride that wave, and you ride the wave. And part of the way you do that is to just do all the little tricks to try to get through it. Anybody else?
Tea. Have you guys, with water, do you guys use anything else other than tea? Some people are purists. They say only water and salt. Some people allow tea. Some people coffee. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think as long as you leave the sweeteners out of the tea, you're okay. Dax, you said you're a water purist, right?
Yeah, actually I am.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the tea, and in fact, a lot of famous fasters use various teas, chamomile, etc. But the one thing I was going to say about the this program that you're doing, Jimmy, I commend you for it. This is a tremendous thing you're doing. The solitude of fasting, which I've only ever I did have a friend who would do that occasionally with me, and actually she was I have a great story sometime about what she was able to heal herself from through fasting. But that aside, this community that you're building for fasting is fantastic, because to have a group of people of like minds that are participating in the same rigorous activity, and I say rigorous, as an oxymoron, but rigorous activity, is that communal support is vital for anyone who has some fears or is not sure that they want to do this. What you're doing is great. It's much better than just doing it alone. To have that in common with a group of people is really great. What you're doing there, Jimmy.
Thank you. And like I said, I've led a few of these 7-day fasts over on Instagram, and every time I do it, people always write me afterwards and go, I couldn't have done it if I didn't have the camaraderie. So welcome, Clubhouse. We're going to do this over here, and this won't be the last one I ever do, but this will be the first one if you've never fasted before. So you're in Keto for the Soul, by the way. Go click on the greenhouse at the top of the page there, and you can subscribe. My name's Jimmy Moore. I'm the international best-selling author of the book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. I co-authored that with Dr. Jason Fung, who actually just joined Clubhouse yesterday. And I believe he's going to have his own room soon. I think, Judy, maybe I saw you posted something on your Instagram page about that. I'm trying to get him on for an interview on my page to interview him and answer more questions about fasting. But we have a very prestigious, spontaneously panel. I didn't ask Lindsay, Dax, or Caitlin to come up, but all three of you have jumped right in and really helped with this. So Jennifer, thank you for your question. We're going to drop you back down to the audience. Magnus, thank you so much for your patience. What you got for us, man?
Yeah, hello from Finland, and we are ahead in time here in Finland, so I start my fast already today. But we are just a few hours, but I better start today. So
nice.
So now I'm going for a 5-day fast first time. But I started last summer. Did every second month roughly. I have been doing fast. I started with a 72 hours, 3 day, and then I was up to around 4 days several times, and even in the summer had some golf at the end of day 3, day 4 without any bigger problems, but tough exercise I try to leave out. But now I've been in the rhythm that where I go roughly every second month, and I try to do them a little bit more longer every time. So the longest I had now was beginning of January, 120 hours, and now I started today. The target is 140 hours, so 5 days roughly. But how often do you think, from your perspective, you could go for longer? Every second month I have been now, some says once a quarter, but what's your take on this when you are up to a few days? How often?
So Caitlin just mentioned that she does a 7-day fast. What'd you say, Caitlin, every what?
Usually every quarter, sometimes every 4 months, depending. But the research shows that if you do a 7-day fast one time a year, it's going to decrease your chance or your likelihood of developing cancer.
Yep.
So I recommend people do a 7-day fast at least once a year, and hormone dependent, especially women, because we're a little different, not necessarily doing a 7-day fast every single month, but doing it as often as you need in order to see the benefits. And honestly, guys, fasting is addictive. When you
Yes.
start fasting, you feel so dang good that you don't really want to eat that often anymore because of the clear thinking and the better sleep and the more energy and everything else that happens. So ultimately, you got to kind of do what works best for you, but the research shows at least once a year. I usually recommend twice a year, like every 6 months kind of thing, and go from there.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this. I'm sorry, Magnus. We'll talk about this next week, but when you get off the fast, you think, I'm going to eat everything I can put my hands on, and you actually want to fast some more. It's so weird. When you get off the fast, you have that break meal, and you don't eat very much, and then you kind of go up the next day, and you're like, why do I feel like I want to just fast like crazy? Magnus? Are you still there, Magnus?
Yeah, I lost you for a second. But yeah, just what I'm thinking also, when I've been doing a longer fast, then after 1 month, I feel like I would like to do it again. But in my mind, it has been, I have been taught by some of my in my network here in Finland that when you do 3+ days, you shouldn't do them too often. You shouldn't do them every month.
Well, and you do need to make sure you get the amino acid sufficiency, Lindsay. Lindsay, you hadn't talked in a while, so I'm going to bring you on. And that's key. Like, you don't want to do too much of these longer fasts because you will become deficient in amino acids and fatty acids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that good point is, how do you break a fast?
Yeah, we're going to get there.
7 days, you just go, like, I'm going to sit down and have some steak because I deserve it. What's the best way?
Yeah, that's not going to be fun if you try to get a big old ribeye steak on day after 7 days of fasting. Yeah, next week, what I'm going to do each day is I will address kind of the issues for that day. So when we get to like day 6, 7 next week, I will talk about breaking a fast. And I definitely invite all 3 of you, if you want to come back, if you're available at 1:30 Eastern each of the days. I want to talk about kind of the uniqueness of the days that we're on. So yeah, breaking your fast is definitely something you don't want to jump into. Just real briefly here, you want to eat a little something, maybe a couple of 100 calories worth of just something small to get blood flowing back to the stomach again about an hour before you break your fast. And then whatever you would normally eat for your meal, cut it down about a third to half, because there's no way you'll be able to eat as much. And you would think not eating for 7 days, you would eat yourself out of house and home. But think about it. You're just not eating food. It's showing up in stored body fat being consumed. It's showing up in ketones out there. They're keeping you highly sated. And so you're not going to be able to eat as much. And usually when I break a fast, I'll have the meal in the evening. because you start your fast technically with the last meal. So Sunday night, whatever meal you have, the last meal of the day on Sunday, that's officially going to be the start of your 7 days. So you'll start at, say, 6 o'clock on Sunday night, and then you'll go 6 o'clock until 6 o'clock the next Sunday night. And so that's the way you do it. You basically want to go easy, and then you won't eat as much. But then the temptation is the next day, like I was saying earlier, you're so used to not eating that you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm feasting now. You almost have to remind yourself, and it's the weirdest thing, Dax.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. A couple things regarding how often I fast. I'll just give you my experience in that regard. I tend to fast at the change of seasons, so I'll fast 7 days 4 times a year. It's usually a good enough time in between to reestablish, some of the vital nutritional elements necessary. Additionally, when you're talking about fasting with regard to how often and how long and how to break a fast, it depends on the length of the fast. For me, I've always made a determination at the end of a fast based on the length of the fast. For example, at the end of a 15-day fast, I spent 2 days reacclimating my system to nutrition. I started off with basically the juice of some stewed tomatoes, followed by a little bit of watermelon juice, and perhaps some bone broth. But it's all liquid nutrition to start with, to slowly, get your system back into a functioning, working mode to where digestion is what's normal, not fasting. So it basically, I think, depends upon the length of the fast.
Right.
The 7-day fast, that's kind of the tipping point for when you really maybe want to spend 24 to 48 hours reintroducing nutrition slowly.
Yes. Yeah, the main thing here is don't go too much too fast. Like Lindsay was saying earlier, there is this thing called refeeding syndrome. If you overconsume, you can actually put yourself in the hospital. So please be careful when you break the fast. But again, I'll be here holding your hand on day 6, 7 to kind of explain a lot of this and remind you guys. So your duty today, you guys, and by the way, thank you, Magnus, for your question. We're going to move you back down to the audience. Hit the hand button if you want to come up and ask a question about a 7-day fast. But your duty, you guys, over the next couple of days in preparing for this is get what you need. And so having some quality salt on hand, which if you eat keto, you probably already have it in your pantry. Making sure that you have good quality water. I actually have a nice little filtration system, Dax, that I use, and it makes the water taste beautiful. And then I use this product from Keto Chow called Fasting Drops. It's literally concentrated sodium and magnesium. In the last fast I did publicly, I went straight into my mouth with the concentrated of these. And yeah, to say the least, you should be glad Clubhouse is only audio, because I made a face. So. But so you want to kind of be prepared. And if you're prepared well, then you will be set up for success. Shantae, what you got for us?
All right, Jimmy. So speaking of preparation, I do keto lifestyle and intermittent fasting, and I did a 3-day fast a couple weeks ago, and I've done them periodically. I'm from San Diego, and I live in Maryland now, and that is relevant because it is winter, and I get so cold when I fast. I don't know if you already covered this. My hands and feet, I'll be in a ball and just have to go to bed because I'm so frozen, even if it's warm inside my house. Do you have any tips on, is that common or uncommon? And do you have any tips on staying warm while fasting?
I'm going to let Lindsay and Caitlin chime in, but it definitely is indicative, and a lot of people that eat keto say the same thing, that when they kind of go keto, they kind of feel that cold. I'm assuming it's some of the change in the hormones, Lindsay?
Yeah, absolutely. I get really, really cold. I naturally have cold hands and cold feet, and it's winter where I am here too. I really lean into, I drink a lot of herbal, mint tea when I'm fasting because of that, so that I'm so cold. I just try to warm up and bundle up as best I can. Also, movement is really key for getting that blood flow to those extremities. Dr. Caitlin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so what ends up happening when we're fasting is our free T3 levels drop. So they naturally go down because we're going into a state of repair. That's really what fasting is meant to do. So other than, burning fat, fasting goes and starts to clean up all of the debris, the garbage, the waste products like broken, used out, worn down proteins. And so because our body is recycling and reusing a lot of the proteins and the cells that are just senescent now, they're dead, they're old, they're not doing its job, our free T3 drops. And so when that happens, we will get cold. And so I am a purist, much like Dax, but I do tell my clients, depending on the goal of the fast, you will incorporate or can incorporate different things. So when I fast, I am doing water only with salt. And the salt, much like Jimmy, is very freely. It is not sparingly done. I will literally put salt directly on my tongue if I'm feeling really cold, or if I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this. But the other thing that I do, much like Jimmy, is drink warm, salty water or hot water too, to get me through that hump. And on top of movement, I love that, Lindsay, doing yoga. There's all sorts of YouTube videos online that you can do just to keep things moving. But fasting for me is a time of reflection. It's a time of healing. It's a time of slowing down. And so I really take a moment to figure out, why am I fasting? What is the benefits? Just like Dax said, probably 30 minutes ago, about what is the purpose behind this fast. But it's normal. It's natural to get cold during a fast. Up your sea salts, because it's usually a mineral thing, on top of free T3 dropping.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, go Dax.
For a second, Dr.
Yeah.
Caitlin, that's excellent advice right there. Additionally, I'll cut my water intake in serving portions that are half of normal. I generally sip on 16 ounces of water at a time, but I'll cut that down to 8 and make sure that the water is nice and warm, if not tea temperature. Also, as far as the exterior of your body, if you're sitting down watching television or you're not in bed, a hot water bottle around just resting on your stomach, you'll find a great amount of relief if you keep your core warm. I also use, if it's in the winter, I use an electric blanket, which provides additional external heat so that you're not having to generate under the covers your own heat. So I just try to supplement my internal heat with external methods. I'm done speaking.
I love that. And I actually forgot one thing that really, really helps. While you're fasting, you are dumping a whole bunch of toxins in your bowels, reabsorbing it. And so I actually really love to do castor oil packs on my liver at night while I am fasting. Not only does that warm you up because of the heat, especially if you're using a hot water bottle, but it really helps clear things and keeps the blood flow moving and nice and warm. So that really can help to warm up your extremities.
And I love
detox.
And I love Epsom salt baths for the same reason. Yeah. Shantae, is this helping at all?
These are amazing ideas. I was doing warm tea, but I never thought of warming up my water. So that's an excellent idea. Increasing salt intake, absolutely. Obviously, warm baths are wonderful. And then I do have some of these little pillows that you can throw in the microwave for a minute, and I can throw those on my stomach. I think that would help a lot. And this also helped me put together some pieces that I am colder in the keto lifestyle.
Yep.
My partner used to run colder than me, and then I started keto about a year ago, and now I run way colder than he does. So this is super helpful. Thank you for the ideas, and I hope they're helpful for anyone out there who notices they're getting very cold in the next 7 days.
Thank you, Shantae. And you brought up a good point earlier, Caitlin, when you were talking about kind of, imagine this is kind of a spiritual experience. Think about all the major religions of the world. And we put this in the Complete Guide to Fasting. All the major religions of the world, fasting's a thing. And it's almost like they knew it intuitively, not for the health purposes, but to kind of get in touch with the spiritual side of your own body. And anybody that's done a longer than like a day and a half, 2-day fast, you know what we're talking about here. You have this hyper sense of awareness, this hyper sense of calm. And I think from a biological standpoint, that's just a manifestation, Lindsay, of the ketone production kickstarting your brain health, but also making you feel good. Lindsay?
Yeah, absolutely. I was turning on my kettle, so I was like, "Oh, turn off the kettle." Speaking of warm drinks,
Yes.
in winter. Yeah, absolutely. Our brain starts to produce, as it's starting to utilize the ketones, the BDNF. Human growth hormone is promoted. There's just so many benefits, that clarity of mind. And as Dr. Caitlin and Dax, you indicated with regards to the detoxification processes, we have a glimpse system in our brain, similar to our lymph system in our body, that helps to clean out the garbage in our mind. And as we are fasting and in a deeper state of healing in ketosis, our mind is able to clear that out as well.
Yep. Dax?
Yeah, the detoxification benefits of fasting are faster, but are faster than any other way of detoxifying your body. There are some mechanical means, and I don't mean to get explicit, but whether it's enemas, colonics, or other things that can help, with elimination. Some people actually do enemas and colonics during a fast. I really don't recommend that because it takes away the body's natural processes that influence the degree and the speed with which detoxification occurs, and I don't think you should mess with that balance. The fact that fasting is cleaning out your body, you need to take that into account with any of the symptomatic conditions you have, whether it's thoughts, feelings, pain, phantom pains. If you're greatly overweight, this is really important, in my opinion. If you're greatly overweight, you need to be careful and pay very close attention to what's going on in your body if you decide to fast. A 1-day, 2-day, 3-day fast is probably not going to be detrimental to you, but your body's release of toxicity into your bloodstream can be detrimental to your health if you have too many mitigating factors like obesity and things of that nature. So, be gentle with yourself when you decide to fast, especially if you're overweight, and that's my opinion.
And to that end, I've been deep in a fast before, Caitlin, like day 12, and I'll pop a 127 on the blood glucose, and I'm like, what the hell? And it's what Dax is just talking about. Like, the fat on your body is not there to be grotesque. I know everybody hates it, but it's literally saving your life, protecting you from all these things. It's kind of binding away. I know Dr. Fung and I wrote about in our book that there's like little pockets of sugar that have been trapped away in those fat stores. And so when you're releasing those, you've got those toxins in there like Dax was talking about. You've got some glucose. So it's going to show up in a negative way. So don't freak out, guys. And I'm sure, Caitlin, you've seen this before in your patients. Don't freak out if you see a blood sugar that looks a little bit wonky and you haven't had food in days.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for bringing this up, because this is not talked about nearly enough. And people freak out because they're like, I haven't eaten in 3 days and now my blood sugar is this. Well, what will happen is once you run through your stored sugar, your adrenal glands still have the capability of releasing cortisol, and cortisol will 100% spike your blood sugar. Now, it's not going to stay elevated, or if it does stay elevated, there's underlying other issues, typically toxicity, very much like what Dax was saying. And so it is your body's natural response to a stressed situation. Fasting is a stress on the body. Although it's a healthy stress, especially when done correctly, it can, if your body is not prepared, release a bunch of toxins, which is why for myself and for most of my clients, I have them take a really clean activated charcoal at bedtime just to help bind things up. Because much like you guys said, when we're fasting and burning fat, think about the fat cells as like big full balloons. As we we start to burn the fat and the fat cells get smaller, well, everything that's stored in those fat cells has to go somewhere. It almost gets like squeezed out. And then your body, your liver, your bile, your kidneys, your lymphatics, all of your whole detoxification systems have to deal with it. And so taking a clean, activated charcoal will help bind it up to prevent redistribution, and it will make fasting easier. It will help suppress that hunger hormone even longer, because toxicity can cause you to feel hungry even though you're not actually hungry. So I love that you brought that up. Such an important fact.
Thank you. Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things when I've done these corporate fasts like this before. Oh my gosh, Jimmy, I hit a 119. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, you're doing good things, because you're mobilizing that body fat that was keeping you and hindering you in your progress. Leslie, you came up to the stage. What you got for us, sweetie?
Hello, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come up.
Sure.
I'm pretty new with intermittent fasting. I just started last year. I really got serious about it in the month of October. So since that time, I've lost about 30 pounds.
Woohoo!
And so, yes, thank you. And so I'm really interested in trying out the 1 week fast with you. I'm sorry if you went over this. I joined late.
Yeah.
But I was wondering about, I hear you guys talking about salt. What about high blood pressure? Because I do take meds for high blood pressure, and I just wondered about the frequent salt intake.
Yeah, so thank you for that. By the way, high blood pressure is one of the first things that gets really good when you go keto. So just keep an eye on that medication that you're taking if you start to black out. And I'll tell you from my own experience, I was on a high blood pressure medication when I started on the Atkins diet many moons ago. And that was the first thing that went away. Within 6 weeks, I was getting blackouts standing up, and I called the doctor, and he says, doesn't sound like you need the drug anymore. Get off the drug. And I never went back on it again. So that's good. But as far as the salt goes, and I definitely want to hear what the panelist has to say, only 5% of the population is what's called salt sensitive. So we have this notion, there's this diet out there called the DASH diet, that's this low salt, low fat, and it's all predicated on really bad science. And so make sure that you're not salt sensitive. Otherwise, as far as why your blood pressure is elevated, otherwise, you don't need to worry about it. I think within a sufficiency of getting the nutrition that you get, which you're doing with your ketogenic diet, and having adequate amounts of salt without having the influx of the carbohydrates, which might make you retain it more, I think you're okay. Lindsay, I'm really curious what the practitioners up here have to say.
Right. Well, when we eat the standard American diet, which is high carb, for every gram of carbs, we will hold on to 3 of water. It's a 1-to-3 ratio. So when you are low carb, you're flushing a lot of this water out and a lot of the electrolytes that go with it. And so your body has an increased need for those electrolytes, mainly that sodium that you're referring to. And so if you are low carb, which you will be in a ketogenic state, low carb meaning you drop your carbs to put yourself into a ketogenic state, which you will be in a fasted state. And it's helpful to prepare for the fast if you can by going low carb. It will be easier transition, first of all. You'll get into a deeper state of ketosis, and you won't have that keto flu, as they call it, where you are feeling the flushing of all the electrolytes and needing to balance that out during your fasted state. If that's helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Salt is, love what you said, Jimmy, not the problem. It's the iodized salt, because iodized salt is literally in everything and more as a preservative. So it's the iodized salt that we have to be careful of when you're getting a good Celtic Himalayan sea salt. And honestly, if you guys were to look at my pantry, not at the moment because I'm not at home, but I have different sea salts from different regions because it's going to have different mineral contents. But one of my go-tos that I have all the time that I use specifically when I'm fasting is Redmond sea salt because of the purity.
Yes.
That will not, should not, unless you're in the 5%, like Jimmy talked about, cause any blood sugar issues. You're actually going to notice less swelling, you're going to notice less inflammation, you're going to notice lower blood pressure when you do it. So it's so important, just like Jimmy said, to monitor and track your blood pressure, while you're fasting so that you can be in communication with your prescribing doctor so that they can help you monitor and manage your blood pressure medications. But I wouldn't be worried about the salt. And you can start slower if that is something you are concerned with, but a good quality salt will not have the same effect as iodized salt.
Thank you so much. That answers my question.
Yes, and that Redmond's brand, I've got a big gallon bucket on the top of my refrigerator right now. I keep that heavily in stock for my keto and especially for fasting. I'm going to literally be carrying around that bucket with me all week next week to make sure that I'm...
Jimmy, where did you get a gallon bucket?
Oh, it's on Amazon. Amazon actually has it.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so go on Amazon, type in Redmond's Real Salt, and they give you an option to buy a gallon bucket. And I don't think that it was that expensive. I want to say like $40, $50.
Well, that's nothing considering like
Yeah.
a little thing is like
$10.
$10.
Yeah. Leslie, thank you for your question. Brian, you're back. What you got for us, man?
Hey, Jimmy, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this this conversation. Sorry, I'm kind of go in and out of the conversation here today. Work has gotten me going on different directions here. But anyway, thank you for taking my question. One of the things that I'm sorry if this was already mentioned or not. I don't know too much about this. I would love to hear your thoughts as well as the panel's thoughts about, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, Soleil water?
Soleil, yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? That was my first question. And then the other question I had for you was that I know that you were talking about your water and salt only fast. So you're not going to be doing any bone broth, and I'm assuming you're not going to be doing any coffee either. What other electrolytes are you going to be using during this 7-day fast?
Right.
I'm thinking magnesium, obviously salt, and I'll be quiet so you can answer.
Yes, we did kind of address it a little bit earlier, and I definitely want to hear the thoughts of the panel. Let me address Soleil water first. So don't get freaked out, guys down there listening. Soleil sounds like a little fancy schmancy kind of French drink. No, it's just literally salt water is all it is. You can make your own Soleil water. Look it up online. They have different ways that you can make it. They do sell it commercially as well, which is kind of weird. Just mix some salt and some water and you got Soleil water. But yeah, it's just another way, Brian, to get the salt in your body. So I would just say make it yourself at home. And yeah, you sip on that and you're getting that adequacy of the sodium. Now, as far as if you're doing it water and salt only, I do recommend, just because I've done this every fast that I've done since they created this, but Keto Chow, the company Keto Chow has some fasting drops, which are concentrated sodium and magnesium. So yes, you are correct. Magnesium, sodium. You don't have to worry about potassium because if you get adequate sodium, there is this nice balancing of the sodium to potassium ratio in your body. You don't really need to add potassium.
Yeah, very good. And the Redmond sea salt, which I love myself, and I use that all the time. They actually sell the big blocks of salt. I mean, just like they just probably chisel that out from the salt mines.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it sounds kind of strange, but I actually have a big chunk of that at my desk, and I just kind of lick it like a salt lick.
Savage.
And by the way, going on video conferencing, in people with their expressions with the salt lick is kind of interesting. But anyway, with the Soleil water, that from my understanding is that you take one of those big blocks of salt, and then you dissolve it, and then I guess you take, because it's a very concentrated solution. So I thought you'd take maybe a teaspoon or so. Again, I'm not sure what the exact measurements are, and you mix it in with regular water. So because I guess the solution that you're made in the Soleil water is very, very concentrated.
Yeah.
Dilute that by So is that what you guys do?
Does any of the panel use Soleil water? They're struck silent.
No,
oh, Caitlin.
I don't.
So no from Caitlin. Lindsay?
I actually prefer to put the salt on my tongue and then just wash it down
Same.
with some salt, with some water.
Yes, me too. Dax?
No, I haven't done the Soleil water. I just I'll do similarly. I'll just put some salt on my tongue and then wash it down. I enjoy the water much more than a salt solution, of course. But the electrolyte situation is so critical, and you can't not pay attention to that. It's now the amount of electrolytes that you need, that's personal and dependent. You'll feel if you're getting more thirsty, less thirsty. The great thing about fasting is you become very in tune with your body, and over the course of a number of days, you'll just feel it's a connectedness with your body that you've probably never experienced before if you're new to this. I'm sorry, Jimmy, but I've got a meeting.
Thank you for being here.
I just want to tell everybody that's listening here today, I don't know any of the panelists well, but these people really know what they're talking about, and I think you're in great hands joining Jimmy with this program that he's implementing. And I want to look forward to, if you're going to be here next week, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
When is that again?
1:30 p.m. Eastern time every single day.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to try to make it for those.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all the great information here. Thank you so much for allowing me to come up, and hopefully I was able to contribute something to the conversation.
Yeah, you were amazing. You, Lindsay, and Caitlin just stood right up and said, yep, I want to talk about that. So thank you. I appreciate you being here and look forward to having you next week.
And make sure you follow these three, everybody, because they really do know what they're talking about. If you want to know about fasting, these are the folks that can help you do it safely. So thanks again, Jimmy, Lindsay, Dr. Caitlin. Really appreciate that. And all of you listening down below, appreciate you being here. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, kind sir. Thank you, Brian. Did we answer your question, Brian?
Sure did. Thank you. And again, thank you for taking my call, or my question, I should say. And great. I'm going to the only thing I have to do now is to convince my wife to allow me to do this 7-day fast, and I would love to be there along with you guys.
Yes.
Idea. And
And he brings up such a good point, you guys, because sometimes when family dynamics are involved, it makes it a little more challenging of, everybody else is eating. Do I go sit on the couch? No, you go to the dinner table, you sit down with them, you have your cup of salt water, and you sip on, and even put it in a bowl. Do you guys do this, Lindsay and Caitlin, where you might put some warm water with some salt in a bowl and you eat it, and you quote, eat it, so that you're in the communal part? Do people sit down for dinner anymore? I don't know. So
I laugh because I've done that. And I've also done like chewing on crushed ice.
Yes.
Just to give me that sensation of I'm eating something even though I'm not eating something. But you bring up an amazing point, and that is really the mental challenge behind fasting, when everybody else around you is eating but you're not. And so that's where coming into your why, the reason behind why you're fasting, is so important, because when your why is big enough, nothing will derail you. And honestly, if you're new to fasting, 7 days might be challenging. Every hour gives you different benefits. So celebrate how long you do go. I created a fasting timeline on my Instagram feed a while back, just showing the benefits from like 18 hours all the way to 72 hours, plus the refeeding. So Jimmy, I'd love that you brought that up, because most people don't talk about the importance behind refeeding when fasting.
Yes.
So you guys are getting a wealth of knowledge from Jimmy and Lindsay and Dax up here, and it warms my heart to see other people actually talking about fasting, not just safely but effectively, because there's a lot of people out there that are teaching it where it's not going to be very safe for the individuals following it.
Yeah. Lindsay?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love the ice idea. I don't think I've done that yet. So yeah, the hardest part is when somebody starts cooking bacon.
Yes.
And you're like, really? You're going to do that to me right now? Like, you're killing me, Small.
Oh,
And,
I used to have to cook in the midst of my fast for the family. I'm like, really, guys? Yeah, I actually got good at it, though, Lindsay. It was me expressing my superpowers that I got from my fasting. So.
Right. But I have a daughter, and so I will sit with her and enjoy that meal. And so it's that mental game and say, just what Dr. Caitlin said, this is my why. And so still having that time to connect, and community is so important. We need that emotionally, and that is supportive to us on a mental and emotional level, as well as abstaining from the food and getting the physiological benefits of fasting.
Another topic that comes up in this conversation is supplements. And everybody's like, so do I need to take my supplements when I'm fasting? My position, you guys, is you're not fasting for that long. So you can abstain from your supplementation. Medication's a totally different beast. If you're on medication, I know Dr. Fung and I said, if you have to have food to take some medication, have just a small little bit of something like 150 calories worth, just so that doesn't upset your stomach. But what's your take on supplements, Lindsay and Caitlin?
Oh my gosh. I say this is my favorite a lot, but I love this question because I utilize supplements, nutraceuticals quite a bit with my clients to speed up the healing process, not to create the healing process. The healing really happens with fasting and the right food choices. The supplements are really utilized to expedite the healing that your body's going to do. And so when I have people fast, like I said, I'm a purist. The only things that I will have people have, other than their prescribed medications, just like you said, so do not stop your prescribed medications when fasting. It is recommended, though, that you are under your prescribing doctor's supervision. Make sure they understand so that they can best ultimately change and control the medications you're taking, especially if you're a diabetic on blood sugar medications. But supplementation, I tell my clients to stop because ultimately the reason to fast is to allow your body to heal. And surprisingly, in research, what they found is individuals who fast for extended periods of time, and I'm not talking 7 days, I'm talking like 21 plus days, when they ran blood work, they actually found that their electrolyte levels were perfectly balanced. They were not having low potassium, low magnesium, low sodium, none of that. And it's not that they were getting it from an outside source. Their body was able to break down and utilize those broken proteins. So outside of, again, like a clean carbon source, the only other thing outside of salt is fast tonic. So you have your, what is the name of that fasting supplement you use again, Jimmy?
The fasting drops from Keto Chow?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that. I use a hydrogen tablet. It's fast tonic, and it just helps hydrogenate your water. So it really helps people get through that, like, oh my God, I'm starving, I can't do this. And it really helps with just increasing like the oxygen and everything else in your blood. So I, outside of those few things, tell people don't take it unless you're having other issues. So supplementation is not recommended when I'm working with somebody through an extended fast. How about you, Lindsay?
Absolutely. I mentioned fast tonic earlier. That's something that I use as well and highly recommend because it takes that edge off and allows you to keep going, as does the Himalayan sea salt or the Redmond sea salt.
And everybody's concerned about immune health because of that virus thing that's out there. And so fasting actually will help boost your immune health in the process as well. So if you're worried about that virus, this could be another way to boost that immunity that you're trying to do. Dr. Rebecca, you came up on stage. What you got?
Right when I put something in my mouth. Fasting. Oh my gosh. Okay. Chits. But the one thing I did want to talk about, I'm all about that thyroid. One interesting thing I wanted to mention about thyroid medication, because Synthroid it competes at the top spot for the most prescribed medication with statin medications.
Yes.
They go back and forth. So there's a ton of people on it. So I want to talk about one thing, a phenomenon I see with people that have been on thyroid medication to just kind of be aware of that could happen what it means and really kind of how to help you through it, because I love fasting a little too much. I had to focus on refeeding because I wanted to do a 5-day water fast like every month, every other week. But a lot of people that are on thyroid medication have either gut absorption issues or cell receptor issues, meaning they're on higher dosages than what their body really needs. And the only reason they're on that high of a dose is because absorption is not efficient and you're not binding it or converting it efficiently. So you keep on having to increase and increase to sort of feel okay. Not even like normal, just to feel okay. So fasting is really amazing. I love utilizing it for thyroid. But what happens, and I usually see this happen around day 2 into 3, for sure day 3, is that if someone's on too much, they'll start having hyper symptoms. And so what I'll hear, and they usually think it's the fast, right? They're like, oh my gosh, this fast is just like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really bad. They'll have like racing heart. They'll feel very anxious. They'll feel kind of hot. And the first time it happened years ago, I was like, first of all, this all sounds like thyroid. And then I did labs. So I started doing labs on people before their fast, like when that happens, and afterwards. So yes, I would send them to a lab because I wanted to see what was going on. And so what was happening is this medication that now you were taking too much, you were inefficiently utilizing, you became very efficient very quickly. And so you went from being, slightly hypo to being on too much and having hyper. So I just wanted to give that a heads up because it's not coming from the fast. It's actually a good sign, even though people can feel like crap when that happens. It's a good sign. I've had quite a few women, because of the fast, be on decreased dose and stay on decreased dose. So if someone does experience that in a really good way, it helps it come down, like helps that heart rate, helps things balance very quickly, because it is kind of dangerous if you stay in that place, is magnesium. So I just wanted to give that heads up because that's a good thing, not a good feeling when it comes to like fasting with thyroid medication.
Thank you, Dr. Rebecca. Any comments from the panelists?
Oh, I see that happen with any medication because fasting actually increases your hormone sensitivity. So it's not just for thyroid, but it's for insulin, it's for sex hormones, it's for adrenal function. And so just being aware of the medications that you're on, and what could potentially happen if all of a sudden your body is utilizing those hormones, not only that you're taking, but that your body's producing. You might, just like Dr. Rebecca said, have unwanted symptoms, but it is not because of the fast, it's because your body is now functioning at a higher level. It's able to perform the functions that it's supposed to, which is a beautiful thing, but that's why you got to work in conjunction with your prescribing doctor so that they can best monitor and or adjust those medications accordingly, especially with blood sugar. So I love that you brought that up.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Rebecca. Ola, what you got for us?
I just want to share my experience and also ask 2 questions. I was planning to do a 7-day fast in 2018, but then I ended up with 5 days. And the first 2 days was horrible. was very, very hard to go through. And only afterward, I realized there were 2 things that was happening. One was I think I had carb addiction. And so first 2 days was to kick off that addiction. And the second was I think I was detoxing. So it was very painful. But then come on the 4th day, 5th day, I felt euphoria. I was surprised.
Yep.
So, but then I don't think I did the refeeding correctly. So there were some side effect afterward. And so my questions are, why well, maybe it was only I, but maybe other people too. Why did we get euphoria? Was some kind of hormone going on? And second, could somebody give me a key point on the refeeding? Because I did it wrong. I think I actually increased my inflammation because I was so hungry. Actually, I think mentally I was so hungry. Even though physically I didn't feel that hunger as much, just habitually I felt I need food. in my mind. But actually, I did not need as much food as I was consuming after I become refeeding. Thank you.
So let me address the euphoria one first. I believe that's the effects of your brain getting adequate beta hydroxybutyrate. See, we think our brains thrive on glucose, but actually the brain thrives optimally on ketones. And so when you adequately have ketones, and it shoots up pretty high, at least day 3, 4 for me, almost consistently goes way up. And so that's probably that euphoria that you're having. Plus, it's almost like the body saying, all right, you finally figured out that you didn't need to feed as often. And so you got a little bit of like psychological power and empowerment from that experience. And so is that your experience in kind of the biological, physiological aspect, Lindsay?
Yeah, absolutely. Our brains thrive on the ketones, just what you said, Jimmy. And so that cleaner burning fuel, and it upregulates those brain nootropic growth factor. And so that's what helps us to create new neurons. And so our body is able to think more clearly. You ever had lunch and then you want to go take a nap? Well, obviously that is the carb coma. But when we are producing those ketones, which we're doing at such a more rapid rate when we're fasting, our brain is able to optimally perform.
Yeah, I call it the ketone high, which is why it's so addictive
to
do fast and longer fast. But we have to be mindful of how often we do them. So you don't want to be doing it every week, especially, longer fast, block fast, weekly. I don't even recommend it for the most part monthly, but that is person dependent. So ketone high, it's amazing.
And then as far as the refeeding issues he was having, if you are ravenous at the end of your fast, you probably needed to end your fast sooner. Do you guys concur?
Yes, or you didn't get enough electrolytes.
Yes.
So you could be electrolyte deficient, so not enough salt.
Yes. Ola, thank you for your question. David, you're up next.
Hey guys, I'm with a client right now, but I'll just keep it brief. I just wanted to extrapolate on your train of thought in terms of ketones in the brain. It's more focused on the extended fast, but I do agree with you that the brain does thrive on ketones. But for extended fast, it actually does rely on some percentage of glucose, so it doesn't completely shut down the glucose in the brain. It does pretty well on both.
But doesn't it produce the glucose that your body would need, Lindsay, through gluconeogenesis, through the metabolism of your stored body fat and some of those dead proteins that are being cleaned up through autophagy? Is that right, Lindsay?
Absolutely. You said it, Jimmy.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that small point.
Yeah, because there are glucose-dependent functions in the body, even of the so-called zero carbers. They're still getting glucose. Like, that's kind of a misnomer of where do they get their glucose? Gee, does the body have any mechanism, Caitlin, to make glucose?
Nope. It does, but the amount is so little.
Yes.
And majority of the brain function and our overall body function when we are fasting are on those ketone bodies. And that's the amazing part. That's the beautiful part behind our body. How smart is it that it has the ability to make glucose without you eating it in order to serve and function those organs and those body parts that need glucose in order to function. So there's a big misnomer behind I need glucose to survive versus my body can make the glucose needed to survive.
Well, and in the whole human blood system, want to take a guess? I know you guys know, but want to take a guess at how much sugar is in the blood? Just take a wild guess. Think about whatever you think it is. Would it surprise you? It's 1 teaspoon in your entire blood. Like people think, okay, wow, I have all this sugar in my blood. It must be really, really high. No, it's 1 teaspoon. That's 100 milligrams per deciliter translates to 1 teaspoon of sugar. And so how many people eat things that are far more than 1 teaspoon of sugar?
Can I add something to that?
Please, David.
Yeah, so when we're talking about fast, we're not really talking about the glucose in the blood, right? We're talking about the glucose that will
Sure.
be released.
Glycogen stores, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, David, thanks for popping up on the stage. We've gone super long, and I'm really grateful that you guys came up, Lindsay and Caitlin, to help answer these questions. You've added such value. I have knowledge, but you guys bring kind of moxie to the knowledge, so I appreciate you guys being here. But before we go, I want to talk about who should not fast. And I think some of these seem pretty obvious. I don't think kids under the age of 16 probably should fast. Obviously, pregnant women shouldn't fast. Definitely people who deal with eating disorders and disordered eating in general, things like bulimia, anorexia, this could trigger that. Any other kind of situations that you think people should not be fasting?
Breastfeeding mamas
Yes.
should not. And then on top of it, anyone who is malnourished, so any form of malnutrition, not a good idea
Yeah.
to be fasting during that time.
Anybody else, Lindsay?
I agree with all of that. I would add those that know that they're adrenal fatigued, because that's just going to be an added stressor. I would recommend working on building up those adrenals before going into an extended day fast.
Yes. So,
I
guys,
think it's important, Jimmy, if you want to just take a quick second to distinguish the difference between like intermittent fasting and block fasting.
Yes, please.
Intermittent fasting is very different than block fasting and has different parameters behind it. So I don't know, Lindsay, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say most anyone can do intermittent fasting. It's just a period of time where we go without food. To the caveat that you mentioned with nursing mamas or mamas that are pregnant or children and those type of things, they could do a 12-hour fast, meaning they just don't snack after dinner and not necessarily having breakfast super early, so that they allow that body to go in and heal. And that can be done safely for many populations. Where we run into the risk with extended fasting or even longer intermittent fasting, like with nursing moms, when we start stimulating autophagy, we're releasing those toxins. We don't want it to go to the baby or to the infant that she's nursing, that sort of thing. And so I think that's where the safety issues or challenges. So clearly a longer term fast where we're getting into a deeper state of autophagy is not going to be ideal for those populations.
Yes. So guys, are you curious about doing a long fast? I hope you do join us. If you came in late, the replay of this episode is going to be on my IGTV at Jimmy on Clubhouse. If you're not following me there, I'm simulcasting live right now on Instagram Live. Jimmy on Clubhouse is the username. Go follow that, because you'll be able to see the IGTV of this full conversation. And again, Lindsay and Caitlin, thank you for sharing your wealth of information. Definitely added a lot of value to what I did here today. But we're starting a 7-day fast, you guys, on Monday. So March the 1st through the 7th. And I'm going to be here every single day, Monday through Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, hoping Lindsay, Caitlin, and whoever else has expertise on this topic wants to join me. We would love to hear your questions, your comments, how you're doing. Like, there's very specific things for each days of those fasts. So come ready next week. Go ahead. Get prepared this weekend. Know that you're going to start it on Sunday night with the last meal that you eat on Sunday. That will literally be hour 1 of your fast. So hope you can join us. Hope you got curiosity. And if nothing else, you got lots of knowledge today that if you were a little bit tentative about doing this before, maybe it's giving you a little bit of a boost of confidence to try it now. So Lindsay, Caitlin, you guys have been a blessing to me today. Thank you so much for joining. And guys, we'll see you with the fast on Monday.
Thank you, and good luck, everyone. I'll cheer you along. It's not the right time in my cycle to do it for me, but good luck, everyone. You got it.
Yes, thanks so much. It's great to be here with everyone and building this community where we can support and uplift one another. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you around the clubhouse.